Thanks for joining.
Hey, Ron.
Hey.
So there's a lot of talk going on right now about climate this, climate that, right? You know, all the climate change policies and stuff. So can you talk about, is there any evidence that some kind of man-made things may cause, climate catastrophes, right? Like whether that's, sea levels changing, or there was a recent article, Times article called the Climate Real Estate Bubble. Basically climate change causing a lot of tornadoes and storms and whatnot, and that may, cause a lot of people to get evicted from their homes. So if these things, may happen in 500 years, it's not such a big deal, right? It's going to happen slowly, people will react to the market, whatnot. But if it's going to happen in the next 20, 30, 40 years, then it's more imminent. So we have to plan for it. So is there any evidence to that, first of all? And second thing, how would we handle that? How would we want to handle that in a free market? Or any study to that effect?
Yes, I don't think there's evidence of imminent catastrophe. Now, what does imminent mean? Imminent means, I think, in the next 10, 20 years of catastrophe, right? Now, that doesn't mean temperatures won't change. They probably will. I mean, systematically, they probably will. And it could be man-made. I've never delved into the science. I don't trust the people in this movement. So I have a hard time even delving into the science and trying to figure it out. I'm not a scientist, and I don't trust the people doing it, primarily at the intellectuals that deal with it. But the little I've looked at it, and I get a lot of my information from people I do trust, like Alex Epstein, right? Who has delved into this and has looked at it carefully, and scientists I know who've looked at it. I don't know of any evidence to suggest that there's anything imminent catastrophic. The other piece of this that I think is interesting is, let's say there was. Let's say it looked like in the next 10 years, certain places are going to flood, certain places are going to get blown away, homes are going to be destroyed, lives of millions and millions of people would be disrupted. Where would you see it in the marketplace?
Insurance.
Yeah. Insurance prices would be going through the roof, right? I live in Puerto Rico. If the expectation was we're going to have many, many more hurricanes, and stronger and more vicious, and sea levels are going to rise, there's no way I would have been able to get insurance on a condo right on the ocean in the path of these hurricanes. It just, the insurance company would be irrational for doing that. This competition, they would be wiped out for doing that. So I look at insurance markets as a good proxy. Now, insurance rates have crept up in certain areas. So this is not to say that they don't expect more severe weather in certain places under certain circumstances, but it doesn't look like it's systemic, and it certainly doesn't look like it's catastrophic to the point where, now, even there's some distortion, because in the United States, coastal areas like in Louisiana, Mississippi, I think even in the Carolinas, the government provides hurricane insurance and flood insurance. So it's subsidized. So we don't have a market value. So it's harder to tell. And the same is true in certain flood zones. The government is subsidizing them. Now, so what would happen in a real market? In a marketplace, well in advance of the occurrence, if there was real science involved, insurance prices would start going up. Real estate prices would start going down. There would become a strong incentive for people to move or to band together to find solutions like building dikes or reinforcing their homes for hurricanes so that they could get insurance, or whatever, protecting themselves from floods or whatever would be required, right? The market would send a strong signal that is something that needs to be done, right? And then people would act on it. So that's one way in which the market would respond. You'd see prices going up, and then you'd see people acting, whether they would be moving, which is completely rational, or fixing their places up. Remember, Amsterdam is underwater. right? Amsterdam is a city underwater. Why? Because a few hundred years ago, they built a dike to keep the Atlantic Ocean out. And it works. And it still works, right? And we're in the 21st century. You think we could build dikes if we needed to, right? For a few feet of water. But you need an incentive to do that. And the incentive would be provided by insurance costs and home prices and real estate prices going down.
Okay, makes sense.
And then on other areas, you could imagine philanthropists investing in technology that sucks CO2 out of the air, and all kinds of other technical mechanisms by which they could try to mitigate the effects of whatever it is that we were doing that was bad.
Right, but then again, even on that front, there's no clear evidence. Do we need less CO2 or do we need more CO2, right? There's some...
Not from the perspective of climate or anything else. Like, we need more CO2 for greening, for green. Plants love CO2. But do we need, but maybe it's warming. Maybe it's warming catastrophically, and therefore we need less CO2. It's really hard to tell, right? It's really hard to tell. And the problem is that it's very difficult to get objective information from anybody because it's so politicized and so dramatically politicized.
And to begin with, I wonder if I can ask you to capsulize. I know this is difficult. Can I ask you to capsulize your philosophy? What is Randism?
First of all, I do not call it Randism, and I don't like that name. I call it objectivism.
All right.
Meaning a philosophy based on objective reality. Now let me explain it as briefly as I can. First, my philosophy is based on the concept that reality exists as an objective absolute, that man's mind, reason, is his means of perceiving it, and that man needs a rational morality. I am primarily the creator of a new code of morality which has so far been believed impossible, namely a morality not based on faith.
On faith?
Not on faith, not on arbitrary whim, not on emotion, not on arbitrary edict, mystical or social, but on reason, a morality which can be proved by means of logic, which can be demonstrated to be true and necessary.
All right, all right.
Now, may I define what my morality is?
All right.
Because this is merely an introduction. My morality is based on man's life as a standard of value. And since man's mind is his basic means of survival, I hold that if man wants to live on Earth and to live as a human being, he has to hold reason as an absolute, by which I mean that he has to hold reason as his only guide to action, and that he must live by the independent judgment of his own mind, that his highest moral purpose is the achievement of his own happiness, and that he must not force other people, nor accept their right to force him, that each man must live as an end in himself and follow his own rational self-interest.
May I?
All right, before we go on, reminder, please like the show. We've got 163 live listeners right now, 30 likes. That should be at least 100. I figure at least 100 of you actually like the show. Maybe there are like 60 of the Matthews out there who hate it. But at least the people who are liking it, I want to see a thumbs up. There you go. Start liking it. I want to see that go to 100. All it takes is a click of a thing, whether you're looking at this. And the likes matter. It's not an issue of my ego. It's an issue of the algorithm. The more you like something, the more the algorithm likes it. So, and if you don't like the show, give it a thumbs down. Let's see your actual views being reflected in the likes. But if you like it, don't just sit there. Help get the show promoted. Of course, you should also share. And you can support the show at JeronBrooksShow.com/support, or on Patreon or Subscribestar or Locals, and show your support for the work, for the value hopefully you're receiving from this. And of course, don't forget, if you're not a subscriber, even if you just come here to troll, or even if you're here like Matthew to defend Marx, then you should subscribe, because that way you'll know when to show up. You'll know what shows are on, when they're on. You'll get notified, right? So, yes, like, share, subscribe, support. Like, share, subscribe, support. There you go. Easy. Do one or all of those, please.